Hello, hello, courageous community. It has been a long, long time since I've been on a live. Our last season ended in June of this year, and I took a little break because I knew that my summer was going to be a little crazy, a lot of changes in my personal life. So, needless to say, I'm excited to finally be back and be joining everybody. Obviously, all of these are going to air on Podbean and Apple Podcast, on my YouTube channel, which is new if you haven't seen it or heard it. And so I'm excited that we're finally taking some time to get together again. Hey, if you're catching it on the replay, hey, let me know what you think. Hashtag it, replay in the comments and Facebook. And I would love, love, love to hear from you. Before we get started, because I don't want to get too early into our conversation, we are recording this live. And so, Reyna Morris, I want to welcome you to the Courageous Podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Madeline. It's an honor.
Good. I mean, you and I talked several months ago, and you were supposed to be on the last season. And I remember you and I had such a great conversation. And we just connected, and you were referred to me by my dear friend Brenda Gomez, which
Yeah.
everybody knows and loves. She's always connected me with really great people. And as soon as we started talking, I was like, okay, yes, she's amazing. And as I started hearing your story, I was like overwhelmed, to say the least. I couldn't believe everything that you had been through, everything that you had overcome. And to see what you were working on presently in your life was incredible. And I was so proud of you. You really encouraged me when we spoke. And so I told you, hey, Reyna, look at the notes, get ready, we'll connect again. And you reached out to me and said, Madeline, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to tell my story. And I was heartbroken. But one thing that I've learned is that, people have to tell their stories when they're ready. And you said you weren't, and I respected that. And so you reached out again months later and you said, okay, I'm ready. And so here we are today, excited to share your story today. And it's a difficult topic. And I know that that's the reason that it was so hard for you to share the story. And so I wanted to take a moment to formally introduce you to Reyna. She is Reyna Morris, who is known as the fashionista who met God and fell head over heels in love with him. She received her fashion merchandising degree from FIDM in Los Angeles, California. After life-changing experience with the Lord, she felt compelled to share her testimony of God's grace with women around the world. Reyna uses her devotionals, blogs, social media, books, podcasts, and fashion accessories to share her faith and journey to healing with others. Reyna has self-published 2 books, a devotional and a sermon notes journal that is available on Amazon. Reyna is not only creative, but a visionary, a life coach, and the founder of Create in Her, a ministry that empowers women on a journey to healing and purpose. Reyna resides in Fort Worth, Texas, with her husband and 2 daughters. Together, they enjoy traveling the country in their RV as she creates, writes, encourages, and enjoys the beauty of God's creation. Welcome, welcome to the Courageous Podcast today, Reyna. I lost my breath. I was like, I love your bio, and it's a pleasure to be able to share it with everyone. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And like I said, it's such an honor to meet you. And thank you for introducing me in that way because it just reminds me of everything that God has done and everything that He's yet to do in my life. So it's a great reminder of just how far I've come.
Yes, I'm a testament to that, and I've only known you for a few short months, and so I wanted to get into your story. Um, I know that you have been through several difficult things, but one of the hardest things even started when you were just 3 years old. And
Mhm.
so tell me a little bit about your story. And I know the first part of your story is the fact that you were adopted. Tell me a little bit about that, and then kind of go through some of the things that you encountered in life.
Yeah, thank you. I've been through a lot of things in my life, and honestly, it's for a long time I resented my story. But the Lord has really showed me that even though I've gone through a lot of suffering in different areas, that I'm able to relate to many people. So that I hope that by me sharing my story, that someone on here is able to relate and find healing. So, like you said, at age 3.5, I was adopted. I was born in Mexico. And during my time in Mexico, my biological mom was in an abusive, physically abusive relationship. So we got taken away from her. And it was in that moment where she couldn't take us out of the foster care system. So she reached out to someone in the United States to adopt me.
Interesting.
Yes. And after that, getting taken away from Mexico and basically like being uprooted and brought to the United States, it created a lot of fear, a lot of abandonment issues, a lot of identity issues, because all of a sudden I needed to adapt to the new culture. It was like a part of me had been stripped away.
Hmm.
And so with that, I dealt with a lot of identity issues growing up. And I found myself very lost and very confused and just asking myself why me, why didn't she want me, why don't I feel like I belong. um, and after that, I experienced sexual and physical and emotional abuse throughout my life, from a child all the way till as a grown up, as a grown woman, being in different relationships that were toxic, different relationships that weren't good for me. And because I didn't know my identity, I didn't know who I was, I didn't have a voice to stand up for myself. I allowed myself to be taken advantage of, and I allowed myself to be in those toxic relationships. And it was something that I never talked about. I never talked about the trauma. I suppressed it. And like they say in Celebrate Recovery, they say you're only as sick as your secrets.
Mm.
Um, and my secrets were getting the best of me. My secrets were becoming toxic. They were manifesting into anger and depression and anxiety. And then I found myself becoming an alcoholic and using alcohol as a way to escape, as a way to silence the negative thoughts about myself, to silence the shame, to silence the guilt. Um, and it was in that season in 18 to 20 when I found myself struggling with love addiction, trying to please men, trying to find validation in men, just wanting to be loved and just wanted to be accepted. Um, and
Let me interrupt you. It was
yeah,
interesting when you said that you had to escape the pain with love addiction, and I was like, what in the world is
yeah.
that? And can you explain a little bit about a little more about what that is?
Yeah, so love addiction, I mean, just kind of think about it that people that struggle with sugar or they struggle with alcohol, they run to it because they have a craving. Their body, their mind, they're struggling with a craving, And so for me, it was like I craved for men to find validation in them, for them to approve me, for them to tell me that I was beautiful, that I
Mm.
was worthy. And so I found myself codependent and I found myself relationship after relationship.
Interesting. And that does happen to a lot of women. And individuals where they can't be alone, where they
Mhm.
always absolutely have to be with someone. They don't know how to function without someone by their side, and that makes it really difficult because you kind of settle for people that are not so good for you and don't bring anything positive to your life. And so um, you said that you turned to alcohol, to kind of hide the pain, which a lot of people do. They turn to many different things,
Mhm.
but then at age 18, you got pregnant. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, during, an alcohol binge, I found myself in, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing at that age. And It was my first time, to be honest with you. It was my first time finding myself in an intimate relationship. And it was the first time as a young 18-year-old, just lost and confused and just wanting to be loved. And I ended up pregnant.
Hmm.
Yeah, I ended up pregnant, and it was something that really caught me off guard, because I was just graduating high school and I was just dreaming of how I would go to fashion school and be, thrive in the fashion industry. But all of a sudden, it was an unexpected pregnancy that I was dealing with.
And so you had shared that you felt alone. You were adopted, you didn't really have the type of support that you needed. I can't even imagine being 18 and being pregnant. I had my son when I was 29, and I was like, Lord, how am I going to do this? This is so difficult. But being a young girl, which again is still happening all over the world,
It is.
what I asked you, like, what were you thinking, and what were your options at that time?
Yeah. Well, all I was thinking was like, why? How? Me? It was my first time.
Hmm.
And I was raised with great values, and I was raised like, take care of yourself. Don't, to just respect your body, and but like I said, a lot of dysfunction happened in my life. So in that moment, I was just being an 18-year-old acting out. So when I found out that I was pregnant, just fear overcame me of how am I going to do it alone? Like, who's going to raise this baby? Like, do I even have money financially to support the baby? Like, I'm a baby myself,
Right.
and so I was just flooded with questions. And honestly, just like me, there's a lot of women out there that, for me, I was making a decision because I was afraid, because of financial reasons, because of not feeling like there was support, people to be there by my side and get me through the challenging season. Um, and then also at the same time, a lot of times what happens too is that women feel pressured and bullied to get an abortion.
Hmm.
And I felt pressured to get an abortion because at that moment, the father of the baby wasn't ready to have a baby. And so, in order for me to protect him, protect my family, protect his family, um, I went ahead and I terminated the pregnancy. And it was very, 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 it was a very hard decision for me to make. And honestly, fear dictated my decision. And also, wanting to please people also dictated my decision of why I decided to end the pregnancy.
I didn't ask you this question, but when you went to have the abortion,
Mhm.
were you by yourself? Did you actually go through this by yourself?
Yes, the night before, I told one person about it. I just felt it in my spirit that I needed to tell someone about it just in case something was to have happened to me.
Hmm.
Because it is a very dangerous process. It's a very dangerous thing to do to your body. So I wanted to make sure that someone knew. And even though I was afraid of, their reaction, I still went ahead and I confessed to one person. Um, so the next day I did go by myself, and I felt very, very alone. And when I was in the room, also, I felt like they didn't educate me enough. They didn't give me enough resources to make a wise, sound decision.
I can't imagine going through something like that by yourself, and
Mhm.
then at such a young age. And we know that many women that are, again, in their 20s and 30s and 40s have made that decision many years ago as well, and have dealt with the pain of that decision for whatever reason. And so, you said that this was the first time that you were going to share this part of your story.
Mhm.
Um, why now?
I feel that, all our pain, the Lord uses it for his purpose. And I wish that there was someone when I needed it the most. I wish that there was someone that would have helped me, would have guided me, would have prayed for me, would have gave me some resources, would have told me, hey, don't rush it, think about it. Um, I wish someone would have told me, that I mattered, that the baby mattered, that God loved me even in my darkest moment, even when I made, these mistakes, that I was still loved, and that the baby would be loved, and that I would find support, and that God would provide for us. And um, but I didn't. I didn't have that support. I didn't have mentors, to guide me and lead me. So now that I've healed from this, and I'm still on a healing journey, because God reveals different areas. Um, but what He has showed me is, turn your mess into a message, you know, um, and use it to help other women heal, because there's other women um, that are lost right now. They're by themselves. Maybe there's someone listening today, listening tonight. They're listening and they're like wanting to make a decision because they are pregnant. And they don't know who to go to. They don't know who to confess it to. They don't know who to trust. And maybe I'm that sign right now for them,
Amen.
that they're going to be okay, that God still loves them, and that our past mistakes or our mistakes, they don't define us,
That's right.
And
That's so
so
true.
that's my hope, that by sharing my story, I'm able to help other women, um, go to God and ask God what they're supposed to be doing right now. When they're stuck in those trials, it's like, go to God and ask God, what do you want for my life, Lord?
Right.
um, so that they can make sound decisions. And then, ultimately I share so people could be set free, so they could be set free from their past guilt and their shame, because that's what I experienced the most. And that's why I didn't share. I didn't share because it is a very sensitive topic. It's a topic that, can be easily judged when you don't understand where that person is coming from or what they've been through. Um, but I had to make a decision that, I wanted to use my past mistake, and I wanted to make sure that there were other women, even men, because there's men that are afraid and then they pressure the woman to have the
Yes.
abortion.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So ultimately it's just to help women and set them free.
I did ask you a sensitive question. Knowing what you know now about abortion, about being a mom, about how difficult this is. Do you regret that decision to have an abortion all those years ago?
I do. I do regret it. Like I said, I just wish that I would have had a mentor that would have guided me, and it would have gave me resources to have the baby. And but now it's, we can't change. We can't change our past mistakes. And I had written something down that I wanted to share that was in my heart, and it was, you know. All the Lord wants from me, all the Lord wanted from me and the Lord wants from us is our hearts. He wants us to exhibit his character and make wise, sound decisions, right?
Yes.
And though what I have done in my past cannot be undone, I can be forgiven and I can be set free, because I repented and I accepted that the Lord has come into my heart and he has cleansed those areas of my life that were not pure. And he came in and was able to cleanse that part of the abortion. He was
Mm,
able to, he knows. He knows, like, he was there. He never left my side,
that's right.
He knew I was afraid. He knew I didn't have mentors to help me, so he knew. So, when I came to him and I found out about Jesus and that Jesus heals, I was able to surrender those parts of myself that I had a lot of shame and guilt of. And ultimately, forgiveness is one of the most beautiful things about God. Forgiveness is one of the most beautiful things about Jesus. And he does not want us walking around with a big A for abortion on our chest. He
That's right.
doesn't want that. That's not what he wants. He wants to set us free so that we can live the abundant life that he has for us. And that's what I'm doing today. It's like I'm no longer walking around with that A on my chest.
Amen.
I learned I made a mistake. I I didn't know any better, but now I do.
That's right.
And now I can turn from my old ways.
I'm so glad that you shared that. Yeah, forgiveness, that's huge for any of
Mhm.
us. I just said to somebody today that's struggling, I said, hey, we're all a mess. We're all sinners, no matter how small, no matter how big. But God's love, His grace, and His forgiveness for the choices that we've made and the things that we've done is amazing. And so we need to hold on to that, learn from those decisions that we've made, and hopefully help others to make better, like you said, more sound decisions. And so I wanted to ask you just a few questions.
Mhm.
What was your motivation to push through all of this adversity, Reina?
At the time, I just wanted to protect myself. I wanted to protect the father of the baby and our families. And I was afraid of the shame that it could bring on any of us. So honestly, at that age, I was just, at the age of 18, I was just afraid. So I think fear honestly just pushed me through that adversity.
Got it. I can't imagine. I mean, one of the things you did say to me was that when you became a mom,
Hmm.
that or when you were pregnant with your first child, that really changed something in you, and that you said, "I knew this was God's redemption, power, and love." And
Hmm.
so that was confirmation for you that although you made this decision many years ago to have an abortion, that God still allowed you to have a child and to be a mother
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
and to be able to give your girls an amazing life. And so it shows God's mercy and God's
Hmm.
grace through the decisions and maybe the mistakes that we make. And so looking back, is there anything that you would have done different on this journey?
Um, I would have just listened to myself. I would have listened to that little voice inside of me that told me, hey, you have a voice. You can make your own decisions. Don't allow other people's fears to dictate your decisions. And I wish that I would, because I knew what was good and what's evil. And even though I knew that, I allowed fear and I allowed other people to make the decision for me. So I wish I would have, I think that's what I really would have done is just really listen to myself and trust myself. Um, and like you said, it wasn't until 20 years later, I was in my 30s, early 30s, and I wanted to have a baby with my now husband. But I remember that I was so afraid. And I didn't realize why I was so afraid. And the reason that I was so afraid was because I did not feel worthy
Mm,
of being a mom. Because the first time that God blessed me to be a mom, I didn't have the baby.
mm,
And now that I'm able to be in the recovery rooms and help women that have dealt with post-abortion, it's a big fear that a lot of women have. They want to have a baby, but they feel that God is punishing them. They
mm,
feel that God is not going to bless them anymore. They feel that they missed their chance. And so I struggled with that.
mm,
And it just happened to be, God always meets us right where we're at because I remember looking at our church was having like home groups, house groups,
mhm,
um, where, different people host, a group in their house and, it builds community and there's different topics. And there was someone hosting a group for post-abortion.
Mm.
And I remember looking at, online, and I'm like, what? Are they serious? Like, who's leading this group?
Right.
And are they really allowing it? Like, allowing you to heal at a church for something that is known to be so, evil,
Right.
And so I was like, I think this is a sign from God that God wants to heal me.
Mm.
And so, sure enough, I showed up and I went into the room and I just bawled. Like I sat
Mm.
there and I could not stop crying. And that's when I knew I am at the right place right now. The Lord wants to do something in my life. And if it wasn't for those women leading the group, stepping out in faith, using their story
Mm.
that they had an abortion too, I would have not received my healing.
Mm.
So
That's
that's
so true.
me sharing that is why I share what I'm sharing right now,
Right.
because there's someone out there that God wants to heal them and set them free, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was every day, every Saturday, I had to show up to the group. It was not easy. It was so hard. Everything came up. Everything that was in me came up.
Mm.
And what I learned was I did not know how much I was suffering from the anger, the shame, and the guilt of the abortion. I had suppressed everything deep down inside me and told myself, forget about it. Don't ever bring it up again. Don't ever think about it.
Mm.
But Lord wanted to heal me. And it was in that room that I began to heal and I began my journey. And in the room, what I learned is 1 in 5 women have abortions.
Oh, wow.
It's like over 500,000, I think, in America. Like, it's a really sad number. And I know that all of us make the decision based off of different things we're going through. But
Right.
if I could just bring awareness that for us women to respect our bodies, for us women to make wise decisions, before we get ourselves involved in these things. And I learned too that after an abortion, the body goes through like a post abortion stress. It's like a stress syndrome that your body goes through. A lot of women don't know what's really happening because nobody talks about it. No one tells them, hey, when you have the abortion, this is how your body's going to react.
Hmm.
No one says that. It's kind of like, go, you're done, don't ever talk about it. It never happened, right? But what happens is that, I mean, God made us with such a unique gift to birth children, and children are a blessing from the Lord.
Yes.
So, because He created us in His image and His likeness, of course, when we do something that's not natural for our bodies are going to react. So, a lot of women have like a complex grief and they don't understand what's going on, but their body is trying to process the withdrawal, right? And so a lot of women struggle with depressive disorders after that. They go through depression, they go through anxiety, they go through the steps of grief. A lot of anger comes up, and they don't know how to deal with it because a lot of people just avoid it. They don't want to talk about it because of the shame, because
Right.
of the shame. Um, so I was thankful that in that room, I learned about what the body goes through. And I was able to safely heal and allow the depression to go away, the anxiety to go away. And it only went away because I started to share about it with other safe women that had also gone through the same thing. And then I prayed and I asked the Lord to heal me because only He can heal you. Only He can heal you with something so traumatic like that. only the Lord can heal us. And a lot of doctors aren't even aware of what women go through after it. It's just something that they don't really, research. That's not their really thing that they do, right?
Right.
Um, and so that's what I learned when I was in there. And
I'm
now,
glad that I'm sorry. I'm glad that you had the opportunity to be in a space like that to help you,
Mhm,
to find other women that went through the same thing, and that
mhm,
you no longer felt alone, because a lot of times when we go through difficult things, and it could be this, it could be something else, where we don't want to talk about it, women that have been raped, women that are
mhm,
being abused. I mean, there's just so many different things that women keep, because they're embarrassed, because they're ashamed. They don't know where to go, who to talk to. Like you said, there's no resources. And so
mhm,
talking about these things that no one wants to talk about
mhm,
is so important, because we need to support each other. We need to lift each other up, and encourage each other. When you and I were talking, I was going to tell you something. And as you're talking, I remembered, um, I remember being in my early to mid 20s, and I knew someone that, was dating someone. The guy wasn't really good for her, treated her very poorly. She already had a small child, a little girl, and she kind of neglected her to be with this guy. She was young, still a young mom. And I remember her coming to me and telling me that she was going to have an abortion because that's what he wanted.
mhm,
And that, I mean, I was in shock. I wasn't a mom yet, but I was just in shock. Like, I didn't know what to say. And for a moment, I said, Lord, how is she going to have another child when she's already struggling with this one, you
mhm,
know? And so I never said anything to her. I never said, don't do it. I never said, I'm here for you. I never said anything. It was almost like I was crippled with like this
mhm,
anxiety, like you said, and a fear of like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I couldn't, I felt at the time that I couldn't help her. And so years later, um, I've always remembered her, and I've always thought about her. And I regret not stopping her. I regret not giving her some kind of
mhm,
counsel and help, although I don't feel that I was mature enough, or that I had the right words to say, or like you said, the resources to provide to her.
mhm,
And so hearing you talk about that really brought up a lot of that stuff for me when we were
mhm,
talking the other day. And I've asked God for forgiveness, that I
mhm,
repent, because I wasn't there, and I wasn't there to support her. And there are probably other women out there too, the same, that said, hey, I
mhm,
know my sister needs, made this decision, or my niece, or my friend, or, and so we need to talk about it more. We need to support
mhm,
each other more. There is another way to
mhm,
handle this. God can get us through anything. He is the only one that has the answers. And so one thing that you said that I loved also was like, who are we to judge?
mhm,
We cannot judge. God doesn't judge our
mhm,
decisions and what we've done. He created us for a purpose and a reason. And part of that is sharing his story through you. And so I'm so grateful that you decided to come on today and share something so private and so personal. And as I said to you, this is also going to be a part of your healing as well. And so
mhm.
before we go, I wanted to ask you, what does life look like today for Reyna Morris?
Yeah, well, after I finished that Forgiven and Set Free course at the church to heal from the abortion, a month later, I was pregnant. And I knew that it was divine order. I knew that the Lord was like, I want to heal her so that she can enjoy, this pregnancy with her husband. And so I had my first daughter, and it was like a true blessing. It was like God's redeeming power over my life. It was His grace just showering me with His love. And then 2 years later, I have another daughter. And it
Amen.
was just truly just every time I was just, thank you, Lord. Thank you so much that you love me so much and that you've forgiven me and that, um, you say I am worthy of being a mom. Um, and after that, I have an amazing husband. He's a God fearing man. He leads me, he guides me, he brings me closer to Jesus. What I love about him is that he has always brought me closer to Jesus, and he's always allowed and given space for God to heal me. And I always say that my husband always sees me in the eyes of Jesus. He has
Mm,
never seen me uh, he doesn't look at my past in any kind of way. He just sees that he sees Jesus in me, you know? And then through my hurts, all my bad habits that I had, all the fears, I started a ministry called Create in Her. You can go to createinher.org and learn more about it. We empower women on their journey to healing and purpose. And I just wanted to provide a safe place where women can come with all their stuff that they've never been able to talk about, where they can come and they can hear real life testimonies by other women that have walked through hardships and trials and have suffered in different areas of their life. And they can hear how they went through these times, but how they overcame it with Jesus.
mhm,
And then they're able to also start healing. And so we provide resources for them to start healing. So we have our second large gathering, January 28th, 2023, called
mhm.
Create in Her Confidence. And it's just finding confidence in the Lord. That's the theme of the event in January. But we do host bi-monthly socials. And the socials is basically for us women to start creating community with other believers. Because it's hard, it's really hard to be a believer. It's not easy.
Yeah,
But if you can surround yourself with community and women that can cheer you on when times are hard, or to be around women that can remind you of all the gifts that God has given you, it makes life easier and
that's
it makes
right.
it more joyful and more abundant, right? So that's what we're doing. So I'm the founder of Create in Her, and then Jen Villegas, she's the co-founder, and she helps with all the operations. And then Erica, she's our creative director. And so I was able to, the Lord blessed me with two other women that can come alongside me to help build his ministry.
That's amazing. Well, I'm super excited to hear what you're doing with your team at Create in Her, and I love what you said about giving women a safe place, a judgment-free space
Mhm.
to talk about the things that have hurt them, that burden them, where they feel that they don't have anyone to talk to, or that might be judged, or may have guilt or shame, that they can get into this community and feel love, and feel accepted, as God accepts us, right? With the good and the bad.
Yes.
But I love that you're using this platform to continue to spread forgiveness and the love of Jesus to other women who have felt and gone through some of the things that you have been through, because we are not alone. He is with us, even when we feel we are alone. I know that He is always with us. And so, Reina, I want to thank you for being on the Courageous podcast today. I pray blessings upon you, your husband, your children, all the team at Create in Her. I love the work that you guys are doing. If you ever need me or my platform, I'm here to serve. I will continue to lift you guys up and pray for you. Thank you so much for being on the Courageous podcast today.
Thank you, Madeline. I love what you're doing, and I will be continuing to pray over your ministry because you are providing a safe place for us to tell our stories. And there's so much power in telling our stories.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for being on the Courageous podcast today. We did something a little different. I hope that you tune into all of our courageous stories. This is only the first live broadcast of this season. There's 5 more seasons available. Go to your favorite platform. Listen to it on the replay, share it with somebody that you know has been through something similar. I know that it will encourage them. I know that it will bless them. This will also be on our YouTube channel. If you have a courageous story and you want to share it with me, hey, message me. I want to hear from you. I want to be able to tell your courageous story. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all the love and look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care, Reyna.
Thank you.